Alright, doing a bit of a different video here. Why do I not? Yeah, okay. Well, this is the best you can. Apparently this one won't do full screen. Um, so that's done. This video is called UFC Malarky, because the UFC is right now full of, well, that's a polite way of saying it. Let's put it that way. We're going to go through a couple topics. Excuse me. I do a mini rant. Shouldn't be too long. About what I think about it. I'm not always negative on some of these views, but I want to provide the opposite side of the opinion that a lot of people are expressing and a lot of people are kind of ignoring. So that maybe if like 100 people watch this video, maybe like one or two will have their minds changed to a certain extent, and we'll see. So starting off with the oldest topic is Cris Cyborg. Now, the big debate here is Cyborg, should the UFC do a 145 division? Should they force her to go down to 135, et cetera, et cetera? I'm going to start with the 135 thing. She's not making it. I want to be like real clear. Like you can see pictures of her next to Frankie Edgar, next to Dominic Cruz, next to a number of like light male fighters, like lightweight and down. She is not bantamweight sized, and that's just all there is to it. And a lot of people are like, well, she needs to get off the steroids then and lose some muscle. I'm like, one, she's passing the steroid tests, so we really can't even use that as a crutch anymore. Yes, she used in the past. Yes, she's a defender, and a certain level of skepticism is always warranted on her. But she's been clean, at least according to the test, for like a while now. And if she loses the muscle mass, is she the same interesting fighter? I mean, I can't think of anyone who's ever done such a drastic weight cut with a good result to it. I mean, we've seen fighters go up a weight class and suddenly kind of rediscover themselves. I can think of Anthony Rumble Johnson, Robert Whitaker. I almost said Brad Whitaker for some reason, but Robert Whitaker is another example of this, where like the extreme weight cut, particularly with the rules cracking down on such things in place, and the fact that she's having a really hard time making 140, I think it's ridiculous that anyone really thinks that that's possible. Not that it should happen, but just that it's possible. I might want to throw out a scenario here. Now, the UFC doesn't have a super heavyweight division, and there's a pretty good reason for that. The super heavyweight division will probably never be a tremendously marketable thing. You look at most super heavyweight fights; they're not entertaining. A lot of it, it's fat guys. It's your Warpaths, your Ross Cliftons, not to speak ill of the dead, etc. But let's, for hypothetical, say that a really exciting athletic fighter, he's like, I don't know, say, former, basketball player as build, but bigger. So like, I don't know, like a little bigger than like a Tim Sylvia or a Gan McGee. Like someone who clearly can't make the heavyweight limit. He weighs like 310, 315 when he fights. He's pretty athletic. He's pretty quick. It's not amazing or anything, because Cyborg I don't find to be like an amazing technical specimen. She just fights. She fights. She wins. She's powerful. She's got enough technique to make me interested. Like she's a very good fighter, but not anything worldly. By men's MMA standards. Let's assume this person comes along. We wouldn't be saying make a heavyweight division for them. Granted, we may be saying don't bring them in, don't do a super heavyweight division, and that would be completely legit, but there wouldn't be any of this stupidity of, well, I mean, he clearly needs to cut his leg off and make 265. No, we wouldn't say that. If he was English-speaking, American, maybe Canadian, maybe British, basically, if he was an English-speaking fighter that we liked. We don't like Cyborg, so we want to stack the deck against her. Also, this idea that the 145-pound division doesn't have the depth or whatever. 135 didn't when we made it for Rousey. In fact, it still doesn't. What interesting fights did we have with Ronda Rousey as champion? Holly Holm, maybe Sarah McMahon. Like the Tate fight, not interesting. We had title shots for Liz Carmouche and Betch Cohen and Alexis Davis. None of these were remotely interesting fights on paper. Rousey was going to go out there and kill them. I don't see how Cyborg is any different. Like, am I dying to see Cyborg fight someone at 145? No, I'm not. But I wasn't dying to see Rousey fight anyone at 135 when they brought her in. I'm still really not dying to see anyone fight at 135 against Rousey. Except for like a rematch with Holmes. So, I mean, it's not like it was a tremendous amount of additional stuff. And Holmes wasn't there when they made that division. So they made a division on the strength of 1 star, and it kind of built itself into something reasonably good. You you can do the same thing for Cyborg. They have this idea that, well, we'll just do like kind of freak show 140 fights and we'll get like some big 135 to come up. No, you won't, because the risk reward isn't there. There's not enough money in it, and if these women do believe they can beat Cyborg, and I'm sure some of them do, because you've got to believe. I mean, that's step one, is having belief in yourself, making it manifest. Very few fighters win fights that they honestly believe that they won't win. But there's not really there because, again, the mainstream, like, casual fan, not like the super casual fan that's like only here for Conor McGregor, but like a step below that, like kind of where I think a lot of fans fit, don't give Cyborg the credit deserved because she's a cheater. She's in a division that's crap, et cetera, et cetera. Not entirely untrue things, but to the point where a win over her wouldn't even like suddenly pole vault, let's say a Jermaine Duramadine into a superstar. It just wouldn't. I mean, it might like for a little while, but we'd forget about it if she didn't maintain the momentum. And the fighters who I think have a legitimate chance of beating Cyborg at 145 aren't doing supremely well at 135 because they're probably, frankly, cutting too much weight, which again lends credence to the idea that the 145-pound division should be come in. And this isn't like men's super heavyweight. Like men's super heavyweight is always going to be bad because athletic people that size get jobs in football, basically. Or other things, mostly football, at least in North America. But there's a pretty large chunk of the human population that are like basically female-sized featherweights. Again, like 135 became more popular, and 115 is becoming more popular now because the UFC has it. Prior to that, they were just as barren, and that could change with the addition of a UFC division. That being said, do I think that they should do a featherweight division? I just think that we should stop this dance, this idiotic dance. If you're not going to do a featherweight division, let's stop talking about bantamweight. A. B, just let her go do her Invicta thing, and if you really want to, she can defend her Invicta title at a UFC show every once in a while if you're really, really looking for some star power. That's my opinion. And then, hey, you know what? If she gets beat on a UFC show by an Invicta fighter, I mean, suddenly you have a star there. And then maybe you can do the division or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done here. It's just this kind of like, this teasing that's going on. Like, oh, she'll make 130. No, she won't. If Rousey versus her happens, it's bare minimum the catch weight of 140. Let's be honest about this. That's all I'm asking for, a little bit of honesty. You don't have to want to see a women's featherweight division. Just stop with this idea that all would be fixed if she could make 130. If she would just cut to 135, like she always could. Seriously, listen to some interviews with like Jason Perillo and stuff, her coach, like George Lockhart. These are people who have a vested interest in working with other fighters such as Michael Bisping, in the case of Perillo, and they're not going to simply make excuses for Cyborg because that's their breadwinner. It's not like there was a time when she had coaches that would say whatever to make her point. That's not around anymore. Moving on. We're going to the fight night we just had, the John Lineker versus John Dodson fight. We're going to start with that fight. Who do I think won? I thought John Dodson won, but I am entirely okay with John Lineker winning. That's not even like I can see it. No, I'm entirely okay with it because the problem is that on a technical level, Dodson won, but on an aesthetic level, Lineker won because Dodson was running away too much. And this comes from a guy who said Condit beat Diaz. I would like to make this clear. Dodson would like get backed into a cage, run away, and just end up back against the cage again. There was no tactical reset to his running in a lot of cases. It was just ending up in the same position, just in a different spot in the octagon, and that's not effective use of footwork. That's not effective use of cagecraft. That's not it. The only reason I scored it for him is he did land more punches. Lineker missed a lot. A lot of what Lineker connected with was relatively deflected by good defensive boxing on Dodson's part. But I totally get it. I totally see how Lineker can win. Now, Lineker wanting a title shot should not happen. He has to make weight a couple times first. I would say he's behind Cody Garbrandt. He's behind Jimmy Rivera, TJ Dillashaw. I would like to mention, I'm not even, like, I dislike actively TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt. I would put them ahead of him. And I don't even really like Jimmy Rivera. Like, honestly, my like, bantamweight to cheer for is really, at this point, kind of non-existent. Like, as I like Rafael Suncao, but, I mean, it's a division lacking of interest in me just because I can't find personal investment. Like, there's not some of the dumb things that specifically Dillashaw and Garbrandt say just have me rolling my eyes fiercely into the back of my head when I read them. So I can't really cheer for them. And I've just never been a huge fan of Dominic Cruz. Again, I like the fights. They're very exciting. I just am not invested in the fighters. So Whitaker has to make weight. Alex Oliveira versus Will Brooks. Oliveira, this whole idea that I was disrespected, therefore I can be disrespectful back, is utterly hypocritical under the best times because you repay disrespect with disrespect. In this case, you deserve to be disrespected. You missed weight by 5 pounds, and you didn't come in like I've seen guys miss weight and come in. They look like almost like someone ran over their dog, where they just look like absolutely exhausted and beat down. Like they tried, they really tried, and they couldn't do it. Oliveira came in like cool as a cucumber, just no remorse whatsoever. No. One, Oliveira needs to go up to welterweight pronto, and I was an Oliveira fan before this. I'm not really a Will Brooks fan. I'm not a fan of him anymore because that was classless, disrespectful BS, and that's all there is to it. That does it for that card. Onwards to UFC 205. I guess I'll touch on it. Roy Nelson booting McCarthy in the butt. Fine, but nothing extreme. Like, I didn't even think Jason High should have lost his job. And this is really even kind of more innocuous than that, if I'm being honest. UFC 205, a lot to talk about here, mostly around Conor McGregor. To be clear, none of this is going to be like me blaming Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is doing exactly what he should do. He's got a monicum of power right now with the UFC. I've been saying for a long time I wanted to see fighters with power. I can't complain with how they choose to use it. So he did his thing. He got the biggest money fight for him. It's a pretty safe fight, all things considered. It's for a weight division up. I mean, hell, he's got fans thinking that like he fought a welterweight when he fought Nate Diaz, even though Nate Diaz is not a welterweight. So I mean, whoa, credit to you. You have honestly the first time I think I can honestly describe a fighter as having like a cult-like following since maybe BJ Penn is Conor McGregor. It's freaky. The problem is that we have a lot of fans saying, like, there's no cost to this. This is the big money fight. If this were at a weight class where both champions had largely cleared out their division, like, for example, what division would work for this? Well, Demetrius Johnson, Dominic Cruz, if they hadn't fought, would, like, be a perfect example of this. Like, there's not really a ton of interest in their own divisions, so have them fight and whatever, but this is like Eddie Alvarez never defended his title, Conor McGregor never defended his title. Both of these divisions are kind of being held up on this, and I want to make this clear. This doesn't make this fight not worth it. This is the money fight, and I'm just saying you have to weigh the pros and cons of it, and people are acting like there is no con. I mean, there are fighters threatening to leave and so on that we probably want to see have some fights. They're not as big as stars as Conor. So I am completely okay with people saying this is worth it. And to me, not really, but that's because I'm not a huge McGregor or Alvarez fan. I understand there are a lot of people that are Conor fans, though. And that obviously makes it worth it to the UFC. I'm just saying, you still got the featherweight division on hold. Aldo's title shot, Edgar's potential title shot, Holloway's potential title shot. They're going to be angry about this. And calling them pansies and whiners, et cetera, is stupid. Because they are getting screwed here. Like, they aren't concerned with how much money Conor's making. They're concerned with how much money they're making, which is zero. So they can, if Conor McGregor is allowed to look out for the best interests of Conor McGregor, they're allowed to look out for the best interest in themselves. And then it's the same thing for like Tony Ferguson and Dos Anjos to a certain extent, although he's coming off a loss. Um, and Habib Nurmagomedov, although Nurmagomedov's whole threat about keeping MMA out or UFC out of Russia is a little stupid. Um, I mean, there was a big thing on Bloody Elbow about his contacts and how this threat's not so idle. From reading it, those are guys that are like largely predetermined to not want the UFC there anyways. So that doesn't really change things, I don't think. Also, the UFC doesn't need Russia, a Russian fight card. They're doing quite well with new venues already. It would be good, don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money they're not tapping, but it's maybe not the biggest blow in the long run. But again, like you can't be mad at these guys, and you can't be mad at fans who are a little mad at this. They're hardcore fans and like this as a sport, which I am one of. I'm not mad that Conor's fighting Eddie Alvarez. It's an interesting fight in its own right. To me, a second fight with Aldo would be more interesting, or a fight with Tony Ferguson for Alvarez would be more interesting. Not a Habib fight. I have fair confidence Habib would probably just ragdoll Alvarez, so that's not an interesting fight. But you know, I'm interested in seeing Habib get his due as well. So there's appeal there as well. I'm not angry about it, but again, really just try to understand the other side, which a lot of people are going out of their way not to. Also on that fight card, we got Tyron Woodley fighting Steve Wonderboy Thompson, with Woodley kind of crying about like allegations of racism to a certain extent, about how it's because he's black he can't get away with some of the things that other champions are getting away with. I feel he's aiming that mainly at Conor McGregor and Bisping. Bisping getting to pick his like title defense basically at middleweight, and Conor, of course, doing the Conor thing. There's a key difference to this, is that in Conor's case, he's making a fight happen that people want to see. Like people want to see Conor fight for the title. Woodley kind of tried to play the I want a big money fight with, I believe, GSP and Diaz were his two goals. But with GSP, there's a lot of really, really, really haziness as to whether he'll fight. And I don't think people were super interested in seeing Woodley versus Diaz. Like, that's the thing, is like, if you're going to try and play the political power card, one, it probably helps if you're a fighter with a fan base, which Woodley is not a tremendously exciting fighter most of the time, and kind of comes off like a douche a lot of the other times. I'm not like a Conor McGregor clever douche that people seem to play. Like, he really doesn't. So that's kind of the thing, is that if you're going to pull the trigger, you need to have the bullets, and he really doesn't remotely have it. Like the fight, and people liked Wonderboy, and that is, honestly, it's kind of a money fight. Like Demi Mai is not, I'll say that much, but like Wonderboy kind of is a money fight. So I don't understand why he didn't, I don't understand why he thought he would get away with it. And like, I get that. This kind of goes against like what I was saying, when you have to understand the fighters are angry about things. But this is kind of one of those things where like Tyron, someone close to Tyron should have been like, dude, you're not really that popular. You really haven't earned the right to call your shots. You haven't defended your title. And you can say Bisping didn't either, but one, Bisping lacks really a rightful contender to his throne. You got Weidman coming off a loss, Rocco coming off a loss, Jacare had the loss to Romero. Romero had the steroid test. Like, honestly, that like no one has like a solid contender claim to that. Like those four kind of have to like fight each other to figure out which one of them should go on, or not like all of them, but like for example, the winner of Weidman Romero would have probably some rights to a title shot. But until that fight happens, they don't really have particular grounds just from a sporting standpoint to go for it. I mean, neither does Dan Henderson, but it's kind of like, I don't have a definitive contender, whereas with Woodley, you do. Wonderboy has really beaten kind of everyone you could ask him to beat. You know, he's got the win over Rory McDonald, he's got the win over Hendricks. I mean, who else does he have to go through? I mean, I guess you could say he could fight Maya, but I don't think that's a money fight either. Anyways, that's kind of my thing. Is like, regardless of race, you have to have a fan base, and we can argue that Woodley doesn't have a fan base. If Woodley was a white British guy, he would have that fan base. Maybe people are. I've always said it. People are drawn to things that they can relate to, and race is part of that, as well as many other things. So there is something to that, but you need to have that clout, and you need to have earned it. And in Woodley's case, not being a tremendously exciting fighter probably doesn't help you. Like Daniel Cormier probably could get away with this. Like John Jones is the one guy you can't dodge. But like if the UFC was like, we want to do you versus and Rumble Johnson 2, he could probably say no, and the fans would side with them and probably back him up on the matter, because it's a fight that, well, I don't think anyone's anti-seeing. It's not one. It's it's one that at least he has won, and it's kind of earned the right to a certain extent, refuse. At least until Rumble puts up a couple more wins. Anyways, those are my rants. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you will comment below. We get some discussion going. And you know what? Hopefully if you disagree with me on these points, we can talk about it. Or maybe this has swayed you. I don't know. Not really sure what I'm attempting to achieve with this video. Just kind of something I wanted to do. So have a good day. And I'll have my UFC Henderson versus Bisping predictions up tomorrow. So stay tuned for that.